So you guys have raised, you guys have actually done a really interesting job of going through all facets of kind of the business world. So you guys started as kind of a 2-person team, you and Liza, right?
Yep.
And then now have raised over 7 figures in venture funding, have a completely remote team of 20 plus people, I believe the number is. Like, how have you, from a founder perspective, like managed all of that from an emotional standpoint?
Yeah, it's been a lot of personal growth. There have been life coaches involved, right? Like I have invested my own time and energy into growing who Erica is as a person and a founder. We all have mental barriers and stuff that if you don't learn how to work through those, like you're not going to be a cognizant leader. You're not going to be able to step out of your comfort zone. I'm an introvert, so I like to be behind the scenes. I prefer to be making the process work and helping the people do the work. And I've had to learn how to step out of that. Like you can't be a founder and be 100% behind the scenes. Like there's a time and a place where you've got to be out front leading and talking about what you're doing, like we're doing right now. So that's been probably a big part of it, is just investing my own time and resources into building who I am. Having an amazing co-founder I think makes all the difference. I've been doing this long enough. I've seen solo founders struggle, right? You've got to have a counterpart. And I know not everybody has that commodity. But that's been a huge help. Like Liza and I totally balance each other out. If she's having a bad day, then I know I have to buck up and be the positive one. If I'm having a down day, then she takes that spot. So being able to balance that between a business partner is huge. There's so much weight to carry, and most people outside of you as founders don't get that whole picture, and they shouldn't, right? Like nobody on your team should really know the whole picture of all of the stress, because they have their own stress in their position that they need to be worrying about to make them successful in their department and to make the department successful, while balancing that with transparency, right? Like we don't hide anything, but we're also not like sitting there for an hour-long meeting talking about all the stressful things that we're doing. So,
well, that's from a context standpoint too, where I think not everyone gets it, right? Let's just say that like you get a $10,000 deal, right, or $100,000 deal, right? To the naked eye, someone's like, "Oh my god!" And if someone, let's say, one singular person is working on that project, right,
yeah.
and like I'm only making $50,000, and the project brings in 100, and they're thinking, "Well, I'm not getting paid enough." The whole context isn't there, and they don't understand that in that specific kind of case. And I think oftentimes the context of that situation in many different scenarios isn't always there, and it doesn't need to be there, right? The key is that you're there to do the gig and to get it done and as best as possible. So, like, what do you guys decide to talk about, and then not from a context perspective around kind of the stuff you're talking about?
We're pretty open with everything. We're open about the fundraising. We're open about sales and deals coming in. I think it's just the emotional part that I think we safeguard a little bit. Like if I've had a bad day, I'm not going to get on a team call on a Friday and be like, this week was crap. Like this has just been stressful, right? Like that negativity does nothing for anybody. So, I will usually process that on my own, or, have a session with life coach or Liza or somebody to like, hey, I just have to vent for a minute, because we all have to do that. Like you have to have an outlet. And that those two things together kind of keep me in check with where I need to be emotionally, physically, self-care. I think the first time, Zack, you interviewed me, I was like, yeah, I'm working like 18-hour days. And you're like, when do you sleep? And I was like, no, I don't need to sleep. I got this. And then like the next year was like the near burnout phase where you start to like see yourself doing weird things and having like weird thoughts, and you're like, what is happening? You're like, oh, sleep is so important. So I've kind of done that full circle of like super energetic, like gonna crank this thing out, which has its time and place in every phase, to like, oh, I'm not going to make it. Like this is not a healthy Erica. I need to really like pay attention to myself, and then learning how to balance that out along the way.